Good morning, cultists. Welcome back to another Unbalanced Breakfast with Cthulhoops. I know last episode I kind of said
On it.
I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to continue Tyranny as a series, or at least like put it on hold temporarily. But I don't know. I mean, I've been kind of thinking about it. Did some soul searching and whatnot, and I should probably start moving my characters in while I'm talking. Okay. So I did some soul searching. Well, not soul searching, but. Did some thinking, and I figured, you know what? Why don't I at least kind of do this batch, and then kind of gather people's opinions, see what people think, and I'm having a good time playing it. I actually don't mind reading through a lot of the stuff. It is a lot of reading, and it is kind of like tiring at times, but I figured it might be good exercise for me to try reading things aloud as well, since you know, I do tend to, if you've noticed, I do tend to stumble over reading a fair bit. So it might be a good idea for me to get some more practice in this way. And besides, I think there are a lot of people out there who are just like me, who really love going through the dialogue and the story elements in RPGs. And so, for those of you who do enjoy that, then you know what? Why don't we have a series for those of us who do enjoy that? If you're not the type of person who enjoys that, then you probably wouldn't really be playing RPGs like this in the first place, right? That's kind of my thinking on it anyway, so I figured, why don't I at least do this batch of recordings and try to do this game some justice, get a little better at reading, and, you know, do as much as I can. Because I do like this game, I really do. It's a lot of fun. I don't think there are a lot of games like it where they basically expect you to varying degrees of evil. And I think I'd like to kind of explore this more with you guys. So, yeah, let's continue on in Tyranny with that preamble out of the way. Let's continue talking to Eldian. May the silence of peace and the jangling of rings both follow you in all things. Yeah. You sucking up to me? Let's ask you a question about Lethian's crossing. Yes, I know you're really old. I'd like to ask you about the crossing's history. Okay, that's a lot of questions. If you have questions about the goings-on in this crossing, I'm the one to ask. I've been here for more of its history than anyone else, he smiles. What would you like to know? Who was Lethian? The biggest pain in the ass I ever knew? He turns bright red, blushing at his words, then lets out a huge guffaw. I suppose I shouldn't talk about my mother like that. She was a mediocre merchant, but a great leader. The war in the northern kingdoms cost her a very lucrative trade route up north, but she managed to earn trade stewardships from Kyros, and for a short time she had a monopoly on grain, salt, and tin here in the tiers. What did my grandmother say? Give a blind man time and a pile of rocks, and eventually he'll hit a target. He shrugs. Not to say she didn't deserve it, but I think luck played a bigger part in her success than actual talent. But Kyros gives and Kyros takes. The next year, Lethian was stripped of her trade rights. Suddenly, she had a large staff, but no goods to trade and no means to pay anyone. But she was a stubborn one and knew if she just kept at it, eventually things would turn around for her. She figured the trade goods would come to us. The location was good enough. It's crazy how that would happen. So she decided to concentrate on making an existing local settlement into the center of commerce for the tiers, and by the claws of a beast, she did just that. I thought she was crazy choosing a town nestled up to the old walls. But apparently she knew what she was doing. It wasn't long after that it was renamed Lethian's Crossing. With the bridges over the old walls, this was the only place to go if you wanted to take weeks off of your trip. Eventually she hired the Bronze Brotherhood to act as our local guards. We were big enough and had enough commerce to warrant the protection. Lethian was your mother? Of course. How do you think I became the Reeve of the Crossing? It's certainly not my storytelling or charm. I may be the oldest living resident here, but that's certainly not a good enough reason to make someone a leader. Though, come to think of it, neither is just being the offspring of the former leader. He laughs. But like it or not, that's how things are. My mother was a wonderful woman. She might not have been the nicest person, and she might have been over fond of a dalliance here or there, but who isn't? His face sobers. May her rest be ever free of disturbance. How did you build the old walls bridges? Lethean was the mastermind of that. She could tie a knot with one hand, one string. I remember watching her draw systems of ropes and knots in the sand, telling me what they would do when built. I thought she was crazy. Says she got the idea for the bridges from seeing galleys pulled out of the water into dock. Apparently the hardest part of it was getting the initial climbing team to brave the old walls and set the first ties. But apparently you can pay a man enough rings for him to overcome his fear of old walls' predators. Why did you settle here? Necessity. The rope bridges let us cross the old walls. With them, didn't matter what trade rights we had, we'd be at a crossroads to the northern tiers. An unbeatable location. The siege of Ardent and the Bastard City ended up helping us. All those folks heading to points east crossed through our little settlement, and many of them decided to stake a claim with us. By then, Lethean discovered there was iron in our rivers. She thought it would make us rich, but it also made us a target. The old walls don't make passage through the area easy, and our bridges cut days to weeks off a trip. Lethean's Crossing is the best bet to get your shipment where it needs to go. Mix a mother load of iron ore into it, and suddenly we had a target painted on us. What is Kyros' interest in the crossing? Iron, plain and simple. Now we have had the forge bound here, toiling away with the ore they pull from the river. We're being squeezed for our resources. If you're after a drink, better to squeeze fruit than a stone, and it would seem many people find us to be very juicy indeed. There was a merchant who tried to peddle iron rocks as magical because they came from areas near the old walls. One of the people he sold happened to be a disfavored courier. The courier then showed the rock to a forge-bound master who immediately recognized its potential for making superior weapons. It was brought to Kyros' attention, and soon afterward? Is that a typo? Soldiers in Forge-bound came to Lethean's Crossing. They came with such force our options were to either comply with what they wanted or die. What does the Brotherhood want with Lethean's Crossing? Or why? Land? Breeding stock? They've been here longer than I have, so maybe they consider it home too. But Kyros' purse masters are no longer paying them to fight. And if a mercenary is killing for free, something suspect. In the end, I suppose it doesn't matter. Raytamon will never let go. He feels he owns this town and he aims to have it be his. Okay, let me ask you something else. Can you tell me about the Spire in Lethean's Crossing? Eldian shakes his head. Sometimes I wonder why Lethean thought it would be a good idea to settle here. We already had a Bane problem before the Forgebound set up here. Now that they're using the Crossing as one of their main forges, the Bane issue is even worse. Since the Bane are drawn to magical energy, we have to be on constant alert for them escaping. How did you seal the door? I have a keystone that can be used to open or seal the door. One of Kyros' soldiers found it while they were looking for a way to seal the doors to keep the Bane from escaping. The sealed door is only a temporary measure, though. It holds the Bane back for now, but it won't last for much longer. I fear what will happen to Lethean's Crossing if the Bane escape. Let me ask you something else. Tell me your thoughts on the Bronze Brotherhood. They were here since the Crossing was founded. Lethean herself hired them to protect the settlement when it was just getting started, a fledgling town in the shadow of the old walls. They did such a good job, she kept them on as our peacekeepers, and that's how things went. They're a good enough sort, but when Nerat offered to pay them to help Kyros' forces, I knew we were in for some trouble. Taking pay from two employers is always going to end badly if you can't make both of them happy. On top of it all, it seems lately that Raytamon is following a path only he can see, and I'm not looking forward to what he finds at the end. Tell me what you think about the Disfavored. I'm not sure what to say, honestly. I have heard rumors that the Disfavored are a tough, disciplined crew, but the Bronze Brotherhood were able to force them out of Crossing without much trouble. I'm sure there must be some extenuating circumstances, but until I see something to change my mind, that's how I feel. How have your interactions with the Scarlet Corpse been? Can't say that I have a strong opinion one way or another, really. They didn't seem to care much about leaving the settlement behind. They put up what seemed to be a token resistance when the Brotherhood drove them out, but once they left, I haven't really seen much of them. Pretty sure I'm gonna need directions around here. Eldian laughs and puts a hand on your shoulder. I completely understand. The crossing can be a bit intimidating the first time someone arrives, but it's not as complicated as it looks. The river is named Protoskor, and it flows down the middle of the settlement. The waterfalls pouring over the old walls are sunrise and moonrise. The west waterfall is sunrise because of how the sun hits it in the morning, and moonrise got its name due to how it glows during a full moon. Alright, I have other questions. More questions about Lethean's Crossing? The history? Oh wow, I read through everything. And that only took like 7 minutes. Alright, cool. I'll be on my way. Bye bye. Thank you for your history lesson. Addendum added? Stirring visions? What? Is this part of the quest? Oh, so are those the waterfalls? From the walls themselves? Is that the old wall? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. In the next episode. No, I'm kidding. So let's next go to this place? What's over here? Please. Load faster, please. Thank you. Anything here besides loot? Which I will obviously go. Grain. Fantastic. So much grain. I love it. Hey, Siren. Hey there, girl. How you doing? Siren stands here, surrounded by a group of villagers. She speaks to them in soft, dulcet tones, holding them hypnotized with her hand motions. Her headdress flashes as she speaks, and you are unable to tell if it's a trick of the light or the gem in it is actually glowing. She's swept up in her oration and seems completely unaware that you've arrived. There's a lull in her conversation, and she opens her eyes.
Well, look who's here. And what brings you to Lethean's Crossing? Can't imagine it's the scenery or the quaint locals. Have you come to spoil my fun?
She frowns a little, momentarily lost in thought. Why are you giving me shit?
Tunon probably insisted you find me, didn't he? Because we can't let Siren have any fun, can we? Let's control her. Let's tell her what she can and can't do. Let's use her to destroy nations.
Well, yeah. Isn't that part of your job? Don't you enjoy it? Guess not. Some people, eh? As she speaks, the crowd around her appears agitated and the air in the room grows heavy and warm. Suddenly, she smiles.
But enough of that talk. What do you think of my followers?
She makes a motion over the group gathered at her feet. As she speaks, you feel a peaceful serenity washing over you. The crowd calms and breathing becomes easier. Very nice, as long as you don't let it get out of hand.
Oh, stop that, Fatebinder. It's not like I'm hurting anyone. Well, at least not yet.
Loyalty? Well, I guess she's a companion. She laughs and the feeling in the room buoys. You smile without even realizing you wanted to. Enough of this, Siren. I want you to join me. Someone with your power needs help directing it.
Why on earth would you want that? I can't imagine you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart. Oh, Tunon must have had a hand in this. Or Nerat. Maybe I'd rather stay here where people won't insist on ordering me around all the time. Although, you did activate one of the spires, so your power is something I could learn from, and you are right. Certainly not going to make any significant advances staying here with a bunch of nobodies worshipping me. Watching you in action could give me the edge I need to unlock a spire of my own. Fine. I will allow you the glorious gift of my presence in your party.
Okay. So arrogant. Alright, well, come with me.
Well then, let's go. If you're gonna teach me the wonders of the world, it's not gonna happen here.
Fantastic. Let's get rid of Ebb.
I'll tack
and
home.
add
See you there.
Siren. I guess her name's supposed to sound like Siren? Because she's all singy? She looks so sad. She looks so sad. Aw, don't be so sad, Siren. Don't be so sad. What could have... Are you a magic user or... You have songs? That's cool. So you're a bard? Do we want to go with the peace thing? Or a war thing? Bolsters the party's resolve. Whereas this is all damage. I'm guessing these are all kind of like buffs and stuff for our party. Huh. I imagine she'd be a good character for crowd control and stuff like that. That's kind of my guess. Fractures armor. Increases speed of her songs. Resonant field. Aria pain. Aria confusion. Confusion, okay. Prone and dazed. Whereas these are like... right. So I am right. They're kind of like buffs slash... buffs or crowd control stuff. Lantry is more healing oriented for the time being, I think. So maybe we should go with attack stuff. Let's have you 8 points. Holy smokes. Can we do all of them? Maintains the damage prevention field. Okay, sure, let's have that. Aria of Resonance, okay. Accelerator vocal progressions, yep. That's sounds like good. Sounds good. Gains breath at the start of combat. Channeler focus, etc. Aria of Pain. And you know what? Let's actually put some into this as well. Actually, no. Let's see what you have in terms of this. Okay, so I should probably stick with one or the other rather than trying to divide my thing here. Might be a good idea. So she gains songs automatically, which is fine. So that's kind of like a Sunder. Okay. She just sings faster. Gain breath? I don't know what breath is. I'm assuming it's like... necessary? And this protects her. Okay. Is defeated. No, I don't... I'd rather she avoid being defeated. Let's have confusion. That's always cool. Resonant field. Aria of pain. Okay. Sure. Okay, well that seems like a good thing. Kind of? Maybe? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But I'm hoping she'll be a pretty good character. Let's have you focus on... Okay, does this actually affect your singing stuff? Like, how does your singing stuff... How's that affected? What's that affected by? I can't tell, but... Maybe let's go with spell strength? I'm assuming they're magic stuff, right? Gotta be. And let's go with cooldown as well, I'm thinking? Sure. I don't know if this is good or not. Let's just roll with it. It might have been the worst decision I've ever made. Wait, whoa. What is this? You have some weird thing there. I don't know how to describe it. Anything here? Nope. Okay. Cool. So we have Siren in our party now. That's exciting. I'm sure she has a lot of dialogue options with her as well. So maybe I should talk to her? Find out what her deal is? Get some loyalty and whatnot? From the get-go? Might as well. It seems like this is gonna be another talky episode. So yeah, Siren, let's talk.
Good day,
How you doing, girl?
Fatebinder.
She nods to you.
What do you need?
I'd like to know more about you. What do you want to know? Tell me about your homeland. What is there to say? It's a fuzzy memory, hardly worth recalling. I was born in a northern farming village without a name. That's how out of the way we were. A bunch of families ended up settling near each other, and that was my village. It was about 20 miles from Shadow's Rest, and you probably haven't heard of that either. We were farmers, poor and isolated. Nothing about my home or past is worth dwelling on. Fatebinder. I barely remember my father. My mother is dead, and the only thing people ever wanted from me was my song. The girl is powerful. Bring the songbird. We need a blessing. Our crops are withering. What has that bitch done? Her voice falters with the last statement, and she shivers a little. Okay, let's talk about something else. What do you remember about your family? The good thing about being taken from your home when you're a child is you can't miss the childhood you never got. What do you want to know? How were you taken from your family? Technically, by the time I was taken, there was no family left to be taken from. But Kyros' forces had gotten word of my talents and decided I was better used taking over the world than helping local farmers. You have no family left? What happened? What do you think? They're dead. My father might not have cared about me, about us, but my mother would never have let anyone take me while she lived. Not without anyone to protect me. I was whisked off to Kyros' court. How would you describe your father? What is this, a psychiatric session? Worthless? Hopeless? Devoid of human emotion? Sometimes I feel like we were complete opposites. He seemed incapable of feeling anything, and I seemed to be nothing but raw emotion. Narat let it slip that my father sold me to Kyros and was responsible for my mother's death. Someone had to egg the crowd on, and someone had to tell Kyros' men where I was. Not that it matters. He's dead and I'm better off without him. What do you remember about your mother? She's dead, so I don't have much to remember. She loved me, that much I know. But sometimes I wonder if what she felt was love or fear. Fear for me or of me. And sometimes I don't think there was a difference between the two. My mother loved me when no one else did, and no one else could. The world wanted nothing but my voice. All my mother wanted was my happiness. She was the only person in my life that did. Tell me about your mother's death. No, Fatebinder, I can't. Please don't make me talk about it. Alright, well, I guess I'll tell her that I will never ask her to tell me that story? Because I want loyalty? Alright, okay, Siren, I will never ask you to tell me that story. Thank you. There's some things that are just too painful to remember. Tell me about your father's death. He disappeared after my mother died and I was kidnapped. I didn't hear anything about him for the longest time, so I assumed he disappeared and I would never see him again. Then someone brought me word that he'd been found. He killed himself and now he's out of my life. For someone who always has a lot to say, that was incredibly succinct. Is there more? You're relentless, Fatebinder. Did you ever think that maybe some things I want to keep to myself? But yes, you're right. There's more to the story. When I got word he'd been found, I had him summoned to Kyros' court. I wanted to see the man who had condemned me to the life I was leading. When he arrived, I went to see him privately. I wasn't sure that what I would feel. Anger? Hatred? I didn't exactly expect apathy. For the first time in my life, I felt nothing. Standing there, staring at the man who ruined my life. Waiting for him to notice me. My heart was dull and disinterested. Then he looked up and smiled. He smiled when he saw me. Can you believe that? He smiled and opened his arms to hug me, and it felt like someone reached into my chest and squeezed my heart, sending hate flooding through my veins. So I sang him a song. I told him how tired he looked, how haggard he seemed. I spoke of the weariness he must feel, the guilt that surely plagued him every day. I asked how he withstood the weight of his betrayal. The burden must be too much to bear. I watched the tears roll down his cheeks as he pulled the dagger from his belt, the sobs that tore from him as he held it before him, thinking about his wife and child, the look of ecstatic relief on his face as he dragged the blade across his neck. No, he got what he deserved, Siren. That's what I tell myself, and for the most part I believe it. I can't help but wonder what terrible things he did in the 5 years after he vanished, and what I might have prevented if he'd only been around to hear me the morning my mother cried. Now you know what happened to my father. As I told you before, he killed himself, and that's it. Do you have any siblings? No. I was close to a boy in my village for a time, but his mother stopped letting me play with him when everyone realized what my powers were. That's the closest thing I ever had to a living sibling. A living sibling? My brother died very young. I never knew him, so I hardly count him as a sibling. Life in the middle of nowhere is difficult. For a single child to survive, let alone more, is a testament to the parents. She looks at you for a time, her lips a thin line. Her eyes grow red and tears form in her lids. Finally, she nods slowly and breaks her silence. I remember my mother talking about me getting a little brother. It wasn't long after I started singing and my powers started growing. She told me that soon it would be too hard for her to travel with me. Siren, sweetie, she said, you'll have to go with your daddy. It wouldn't be good for the baby if I kept traveling like that. Maybe after your brother is out here with us, we can all travel together. Siren looks out to the horizon, her voice breaking. You didn't like traveling with your father? Or like, go on. Everyone wanted the songbird to sing for them, and they paid us so much money. So we went. But I didn't want to go out without my mother. She was the only real comfort I had. When I was with her, I felt safe. Nothing could hurt me. There was a trip coming up, and I knew she wouldn't be going. I couldn't bear the thought of all those days in the care of my father. Her voice breaks again and she closes her eyes. So I sang to my baby brother. I told him we were all waiting for him. I told him that we needed to be a family so we could travel together. I told him he should come out now. I don't know if I meant for it to happen, but I sang the words no one can resist my voice. So my mother's screams cut the song short, and the blood, it was everywhere. I was dragged from the room, but I don't remember who took me. I only remember staring at my foot the rest of the afternoon. The pattern soaked into my shoe. The splatter across the top of my toes. I couldn't bring myself to clean it off. I just looked at it. So, she accidentally forced her mother to have a miscarriage. Holy shit. That is... Damn. How long had your mother been pregnant? Not long enough for my brother to survive. Maybe he could have, I don't know. The problem is, when I told him he had to come out, I didn't mean I wanted him out alive. I don't think he would have survived even if it was time for my mother to give birth. People came and went all day. There was a lot of crying and nobody looked at me the same way after that. My mother told me that things like that happen all the time, but even at 5 I knew what I had done, and part of me was happy. I wanted my mother back and I got her. She still loved me. She died protecting me, but I terrified her. Every time I opened my mouth, I could see her flinch. And after my brother died, she was never around when I sang, so she couldn't bear to watch me. It's terrible. How long have you been practicing magic? Always. I have no memory of being without the power. It has been my driving force and I am who I am because of it. Every defining moment of my life is because of my voice and the power behind it. I've become what it made me, and it is what I have done with it. Okay, well, tell me about your time with the voices of Nerat. What do you want to know? How did you meet Nerat? I met it when I was unceremoniously dumped on its doorstep by Kyros. All I felt toward it since the moment I saw it was sheer hatred. When one person tires of me, they just hand me off to another. I seem to be quite the handful. No one is truly prepared to deal with me, I suppose. I was its possession for 3 years, stuck doing what it wanted until you came along and started messing around with Kyros' plans. Why did Kyros give you to Nerat? I made the mistake of trying my songs on Kyros, and forgiveness isn't exactly in the Overlord's vocabulary. Interestingly enough, I think it almost worked. Can you imagine how differently things would have turned out if I had a little bit more practice? I was brought out at one of the many lavish gatherings thrown at the palace. Kyros loved showing me off, you know, impressing the gathered elite. So I performed. I sang, I danced, I convinced people to join in. Then, in the middle of it all, I had a brilliant idea to work one more performance into the show. Something that would be the ultimate end to the evening. I added a counterpoint to my song and directed it at Kyros. In it, I mentioned that it might be in everyone's best interest if Kyros ended up impaled on a sword. I honestly didn't think it would work, but why not try, right? It went as far as Kyros unsheathing one of the royal guard's swords, but then everything stopped. I don't know why. It was probably me. I got too excited and lost control, but whatever the reason, Kyros was suddenly out of my control and let out a terrible shout. Weren't you afraid of getting caught? Of course I was. But I've seen how the world works, especially Kyros' world. People don't live long, and when they're disposed of, it's violent and sudden. I figured I was dead anyway. So why not try to rid the world of a horrible threat? Really? You were trying to save the world? Fine, I was trying to save my own skin. Happy? I was 12, so forgive me if self-preservation was in the front of my mind. Oh look, a young lady who thinks of nothing but herself. Do you want to hear the rest of the story or not? Go on. Everyone stared, frozen by the yell echoing back at us. Kyros quickly recovered and gave the appearance of cheering us on, but I was convinced I was about to die. Interestingly, my execution never came. I finally realized I couldn't be punished at the party, because Kyros would have to admit I had exerted my will onto the Overlord, and without a good reason to call for my death, I couldn't have been executed afterward. I was a songbird. I did nothing but spread Kyros' will and gather the armies. Would you execute your best and most loved recruiting tool? So Kyros worked with the Nerat and they gave me this helmet to bring me back in line. Then it was handed over to Nerat, that monster, because it was the one thing in the world I cannot control. Present company excluded, Fatebinder. Why can't you control him? I've been inside its mind after time, and I've never been able to get a handle on what's going on in there. Every time I talk to it, I feel like a different person is talking to me, and every one of them wants something different. And one in particular wants something it's never ever going to get. What has Nerat had you do for him? Now, if that isn't the question that goes right to the heart of the storm, I think you should ask me what it hasn't had me do, or at least tried to make me do. I've been inside its mind after time. Okay, yeah, I know that. You've already said that. Wait a minute. What does Nerat want from you that he's never going to get? Come on, Fatebinder. Can't be that naive. I'm still a child and I know about adult urgings, as one of my old teachers so clumsily put it. Somewhere inside that chaotic mind, I saw the most depraved and disturbing desires I've had the misfortune of feeling. No matter what Nerat says to you, do not trust it. That will always end badly. Really? He wants to do you? Jeez. Alright. Tell me more about the headdress. You know what? I'll just finish going through her dialogue and then we'll end the episode there. It's a bane of my existence and something that's incredibly painful to talk about. So why not? She shrugs. What does it do? It makes me impotent. Do you have any idea what it's like to have a hurricane raging inside you? To feel the gale crashing against you to be released, but only feel a gentle summer's breeze? Wait, to feel the gale crashing against you to be released, but only feel a gentle summer's breeze? Kyros and Nerat made it just for me. If I attempt anything more powerful than a simple tune, it'll kill me. Isn't that simply wonderful? Honestly, to be so terrified of a mere child. Why do you have it? I might have tried to kill Kyros once. He and Nerat decided I posed too much of a threat, so they muzzled me. I was their attack dog and they pulled out my teeth. You can hardly be surprised if the dog tries to bite you, if that's all you teach it to do. Why can't you simply take it off? Gee, Fatebinder, I never thought of that. Here, could you unclasp it for me so I can get out of it? Because I'll die if it isn't removed the proper way, you simpleton. Do you think I'd leave it on otherwise? If you can't take it off, then why did you try to get me to remove it when we met? How can someone so powerful be so stupid? I knew you wouldn't be able to remove it. That's not why I was trying to do. You're a Fatebinder. You honestly think I was going to pass up the opportunity to try and control a Fatebinder? How do you know you'll die if you remove the helmet? Because I doubt Nerat and Kyros would go through all the trouble just to play a trick on me. Something this subtle, elaborate, and long-lasting isn't really their style. At least, not Nerat's. Plus, Nerat told me the helmet would kill me if I removed it, and while it might be a lying monster, it loves telling the truth if the truth causes an extra bit of pain. You believe Nerat? Maybe he's just toying with you. Have you tried removing it? I'm not going to risk my continued existence on a maybe. Plus, I've already tried. When they first put it on me, I got one of the worst headaches I've ever had, so I'll leave it where it is for now. What would it take to remove it? Someone beating the information out of Nerat or Kyros. They are the only ones who know how it was constructed and how it works. I may ask people to remove it, but I know they won't be able to. That's not going to stop me from trying though. Why the headdress? Why not use magic to gag you? They tried magic. Didn't really work. The problem is, spells can be broken. Counter spells can be found, guards can be bribed, people can have accidents. Nerat and Kyros were the only ones who know how to remove this without killing me. The answer is locked somewhere in Nerat's insane and Kyros' currently not conveniently located heads. What? Kyros doesn't have a head? What? Okay, let's talk about something else. And...
What do you need?
Whoa. Okay, I guess there's still more stuff to talk about with you. Why don't we leave the rest of this dialogue for the next episode? Because we are currently out of time. A little over time, in fact. So thanks for sticking with me for the extra 5 minutes or so. So yeah, and we'll continue this journey in the next episode. So yeah, I'm gonna at least do this batch of recording, so we can look forward to at least a few more episodes. And then I'll kind of like gather people's opinions, or if there's no opinions, then I'll just kind of like see how I feel. Maybe we'll take a little break from Tyranny and then try something else and then come back to it in the future, but yeah, for now, you can look forward to a few more episodes, if indeed you do look forward to the series. And if that's the case, thank you. So yeah, thanks for watching and have a good breakfast.